I assume you are ready now.
Yes, we are. We are
Thank
ready
you,
to proceed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Shaskelson?
Thank you, Chair. I think where we will pick up with this is for me briefly to lead Mrs. Gxasheka on the email correspondence in relation to the legal opinion and the vetting issue. And you should now have had your little bundle of email correspondence paginated. It starts at 2062 and it would be at the back of file 6 if it's been put into a file. (2062).
Can show these here.
And Chair, because it's an email chain, we have to jump around a little bit. And so I think that the starting point, the earliest email I can see, is at page at 2070. If one goes to the foot of 2070, which is page 9 of 11, the chain starts with an email from Chief Mapiyeye. It's to Mrs. Gxasheka, and it's on the 26th of March 2024, just before 3 p.m. And if we go down, essentially, Mrs. Gxasheka, the Chief was asking you for a meeting, was he not, to deal with inter alia the issue of criminal records.
You see that, Mrs. Gxasheka? It's at 2070 and 2071.
And one of the people who was copied on that email is Lifu Makoba, or Makoba, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Can you just explain who that person is?
Good morning, Chairperson, good morning, Commissioners and everyone. Thank you, Evidence Leader. Lefu Makoba was the acting divisional head for employee relations. Thank you.
So she was reporting to you in the HR department?
Certainly, yes.
So the next step in the chain is if we go up to the middle or to the top of page 270, we see that Ms. Makoba then writes to Njabulo Zulu, who I assume is in the legal department.
Yes. And
says, "Dear colleagues, how far is your progress on a legal opinion on the EMPD employees with criminal records?" So she's writing to legal saying, where's this opinion? If we go up the page, just sort of middle of page 269, you thank her. That's an email from you to Lifu Makoba still on the 26th of March, 7 p.m.
Yes.
Thanks for following up on this. And then at the foot of page 2068, a response is received from Thabo Makwiting, who I assume is in legal, and he says, "Good evening, colleagues. I've signed off on the comments today. Advocate Zulu will send to you first thing tomorrow. Please accept my apology." And so this is legal saying to you, you'll have the opinion tomorrow. We're sorry. Sorry it's late. then, the following day, tomorrow, which is the 27th of March, we see at the top of page 2068, Mr. Zulu of Legal emails you saying, "Dear colleagues, please find attached legal comments on the EMPD matter. Regards, and Njabulu." And was that the email that actually attached the opinion?
Yes.
My next step, and I don't think I've missed anything, but if I have, call me out. On the 5th of April, 2024, Lifu Makhoba emails Chief Mapiyeye, Julius Mkhonazi, sorry, that's on page 2067. Emails Chief Mapiyeye, Julius Mkhonazi, and Riva Spies, Ivan Duplessis, and various others. Dear colleagues, as per the discussion of the meeting of 2 April 2024, with Chief of Police and his management team, as well as the HOD management team, kindly receive the legal opinion for your processing and way forward. So this seems to be the first time that the opinion was given to the EMPD.
Yes.
But it refers to a meeting that's taken place in the meantime between yourselves and the Chief of Police, or yourself, the Chief of Police and his management team and your management team on 2 April. And that we don't see we don't see a minute or anything of that meeting. Do you have any recollection of what happened at that meeting? And just to contextualize it for you, you would have been in possession of the opinion by that stage, which came to you on the 27th. It hadn't yet been forwarded to the police department.
Thank you, Chair. In best of my collections, I think, and also my evidence yesterday was that this is where we're discussing the processes. The legal opinion, as we were reading it, it was confirming some of the things that needs to be done.
Sorry, maybe if I can assist you in that regard, can we go to 2043, or just keep this bundle open, but 2043 of the annexure bundle, no, it's the same file, page 2043 of the same file. It should be file 6, because I think that is the legal opinion that we're talking about, and it might help. Your file 6 of 6, 2043.
Yes, we were summarizing the issues that were discussed regarding that the legal opinion, which it talked to, I think, in page 2043, it was talking to the description, for instance, of the employees that were vetted, and activities that happened, and so forth and so forth. The following page, it was about the EMPD reports, the master fingerprints results, and so forth, and then the questions to be answered. If I can go straight to those questions, the first one on page 2044, paragraph 4. That for the sake of clarity and convenience in application of the law to the facts, we will categorize the employees, those who are acquired criminal convictions prior to employment, those who acquire criminal convictions during employment, and those who acquired pending criminal cases during employment. I think we all understand the challenges at EMPD and IPD, where they would be found with criminal cases while at their work time. Those who were declared unfit to possess a firearm during employment in the city, and those who failed to submit their fingerprints. then they came and discussed the law facts to the issue where employees who acquired conviction, how we should deal with, and the processes that we needed to follow, including disciplinary hearings. I'm summarizing, Chair. That we need to have, especially where you are declared unfit to hold a firearm and so forth and so forth. So at a high level, my recollection was in that meeting then we needed to come with a process of embarking on these different categories. And also, I've said yesterday that the issue of getting consent and the expungement where it's required. So this is what we were finalizing after they've given us the categories that they had. So we're just cleaning the house. I then further, we agreed that HR doesn't have capacity to hold, to conduct that process. Therefore, they will have to source it and get it done by themselves. But then they keep myself and the accounting officer abreast. And as I said yesterday, again in the meeting, you could find the back and forth among themselves, back and forth. Others are suggesting this process, others are suggesting that process. So the email of Lifu was focusing on that, Chair, that what process we're supposed to follow and what we're agreeing that needs to be done. And I would like to reiterate from what I said yesterday, there were challenges. Because some of them said, I already have this, I don't need to do it, but you are pushing that others must be done, and the issues of capacity that we discussed. I think that's what I can recall at this point in time. Thank you, Evidence Leader.
Thank you. If we continue in the chronology, it goes to the top of page 2066, where you then write shortly after the email from Lifu, you write to Chief Mapie and Riva Spis copying Julius Mkonazi. Dear Chief and Riva, please provide us a report regarding the category of employees as you explained in our meeting. Also find attached the legal opinion so you proceed with your internal proceedings. And what were you referring to as the category of employees that they had been explaining in the meeting?
Okay. Can you take me back to the annexure now? I just closed it.
The annexure is LLG
I've got it. I think I did read, in terms of the description of how it should be done, the types of employees, the types of employees that they need to categorize. I've read that in terms of the legal opinion. So we're referring to that basically. That they need to redo their...
Can you please just restate that category for clarity?
Employees who acquired criminal conviction prior to employment.
And can I just clarify that you're on page 2044?
2044.
Paragraph 4. Okay, if you are referring to that longish list, it's fine. You don't need to. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Now, your email was on 5 April at 1:46 p.m. The next email is from Julius Mkonazi, and that's on the same day at 4:21 p.m. And he responds, although your email was addressed to Chief Mapie and Deputy Chief Spis, Julius Mkonazi responds directly to the email and says, "Good afternoon, colleagues," responding directly to you. "I have set up a team within operation to verify the fingerprints as submitted to us by Deputy Chief Riva Spis and Deputy Director Vanda van Rooyen. We've discovered that this is the old criminal record data. Some of the people on no retirement, I'm not sure what that means, cleared by the courts, resigned. And then he says, I suggest we start the process of verification afresh so we get the correct data of criminal record for every employee. As the HOD was explaining, this is going to affect the whole city. It will be wise if we start with the correct and clean data, as operations we're combat ready to start the process since we're the most affected one according to this old criminal record. So if I understand correctly, he's saying this data is not accurate. Some of it is incorrect. We need to start from scratch. And because it's my section that is most affected according to the existing data, let my section take responsibility for checking getting proper fingerprints. Is that a fair summary of what he is saying?
That was my understanding as well, Chair. Thank you.
You then responded the following day. And that is at page 2064. And you respond to his letter on Saturday, the 6th of April, 7 in the morning. Please note this is your EMPD process and concur that it must be done seamlessly. To ensure accuracy at all times, employees must be vetted and a final outcomes report must ensure that the data provided is correct, current, accurate, valid and reliable and legally and relevant. Legally, all the correct processes and SOPs must be observed and adhered to. Please keep the accounting officer and HR informed of the process to embark upon and timeframes by rather providing a comprehensive report to this whole process where possible. So do you want to explain your response here?
Thank you, Chair. My response is exactly what I've said yesterday and today, Chair, that I've said in our meeting, it's their process, they've got capacity, they assist the city anyway. They must run with it. And we already provided guidance in terms of how it should be done and so forth. And all we need is a seamless process. And obviously, Chief is leading the department, and my communique specifically it talks to the Chief and the senior management, but specifically to the Chief. And eventually, based on our agreement previously, was that keep us informed as we embark on the process, because once it's concluded, then it also determines the labor relations processes that we must commence with, and be able to assist them where HR gets to start to be involved. Thank you.
Then there seems to have been a delay of a full year, because the next email in the chain is at page 2063, the middle of the page. And it's Sunday, April the 6th, but now it's 2025, not 2024. And you write to Julius Mkhwanazi saying, Dear Acting Chief, this is the issue the councillor is referring to. We need to act on this before they use it against HR and EMPD. And below, what you're doing is you are forwarding your last email of 6 April 2024, exactly a year ago, the dear colleagues, please note this is your EMPD process. So it seems to me, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that what had happened is that the matter had sometime later been raised in council, closer to April the 6th, 2025, and at that point you went back to Julius Mkhwanazi and said, we need to act on this. If we don't, they're going to use it against our departments. The councillors are going to take action against our departments. Is that correct?
If I recall events, it might not have necessarily been the council meeting, but where we report majority of our issues is at OCMOL. So it might have been the OCMOL, the structure I've discussed yesterday.
Sorry, can you just explain that structure?
Is the oversight of the executive mayor and legislature offices committee. So they've been following up on majority of EMPD issues. I think that's where we get to engage about EMPD issues. I think it could have been Councillor Bach. It was where it was discussed, and it was not for the first time. They kept on discussing these issues, and where it would have been in council as well, it would have been the EMPD, MMC community safety that would have been responded. So it became an ongoing matter that needed to be resolved. So my aim of the meeting was to say, can this happen? Can you follow up on my email that was sent to you guys a year ago? Thank you, Chair.
And were there any other communications in relation to this issue between yourself and Mr. Mkonazi in the intervening year?
After this one?
No. Between April 2024 and April 2025.
Directly so, I'm not, it might have been verbal. But where we have been meeting and discussed these issues, it was in the OCMOL. As I said, OCMOL kept on following up that EMPD get this process done. I don't sit in their executive management meeting. I wasn't sure what was happening there, but in the OCMOL, all of us will be sitting there. So it will be discussed that it must happen. And I was also trying to emphasize that time is running. Why is this not happening? Thank you.
And that seems to be the last email in the chain, because
Yes.
The next email is on page 2071, which is just your own personal email where
Yes.
you have sent the email chain for filing. Is there anything you would want to add further in relation to this topic? Because from my side, I'm happy. Well, I will come back to ask you questions, but that from my side seems to conclude the initial process of just taking you through the emails.
I'm comfortable so far. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, that concludes the process of leading the witness. So I'm afraid now the questions get a bit more intrusive. And maybe we can start.
So maybe before you start, there was also the issue of the tender. What has been decided about that?
And I've given a list of references that I'm going to refer to. And in fact, I'm proposing to start right there. So, can I ask you to go to page 168 of the supplementary? Two of two.
Thank you so much.
168.
Yeah.
Can you mention the page again?
168.
Apologies for that. 168.
6168.
168. Thank you, Chair.
And there you'll see a document saying bids are hereby invited for the following: Human Resources Department, Strategic HR and Talent Management, Contract PSHR 13 of 2023, the appointment of accredited skills development providers to implement various qualification and skills programs on an as and when required basis from date of award till 30 June 2026. And the closing date is 24 July 2023. The foot of the page, you'll see that that invitation is issued in the name of Dr. Mashazi. Did she play any role in this process?
In its entirety, or the advertising process?
Well, in advertising the bid or the bid more broadly?
I don't think so, because the advertising from the process, my understanding, the HR will draft the specification, and then the specification will be taken to the bid specification committee for endorsement. The only role that the city manager will play is to appoint the committee. In fact, all the committees, the bid specification committee, the bid evaluation committee, and the bid education committee, that's her role. And the main stakeholders, it will be the chairperson and the whole committee of the bid specification committee. I wouldn't know 100% of the supply chain processes, Chair, if it goes to her for signing or not. Normally, HODs, they don't get involved in the tender processes, so it would be very difficult to give every detail. One area I think should be involved is to appoint the committee. Thank you so much.
If we go up to 162, which is the bid document itself, or the start of the bid, it says that it's prepared by the HR department, Division Strategic HR and Talent Management, and it's prepared for the Department of Human Resources Head Office, and in fact your name is given there. And it says, anyone gives the email address of Makosi Makamba on both prepared by and prepared for. So what role did you play in relation to the preparation of this bid?
Chair, as much as my name is put there, as you can see, the email, it's not my email. The role that I will probably play, because I say these documents HODs are not involved. It will be the agreement, maybe on how the spec will be, just to look at the documents. Because in terms of technical expertise, it's the divisions, training and development, who will understand what are the requirements. And my understanding, this specification should have remain the same for the longest time. I did make comments at some point that their current tender, because it has been following the same process all along, it doesn't cover everything. I said, where preferable, I would love us to see having formal education as part of the tender. Where we do have challenges, Ekurhuleni, of formal qualifications. I think as I speak now, it can be verified. I'm not 100% sure. I know we have media space here. Even at EMPD, if I'm sure, There might be no acting chief now. It will be only the acting HOD because of lacking of qualifications at those levels. I can't recall if they included it on the tender, but I know that the appointment of service provider with formal qualifications, it did not happen.
And what is your distinction between formal qualifications and informal qualifications? Are you talking degrees and diplomas versus other NQF qualifications?
Please repeat the part referring to degrees and diplomas because you spoke at the same time, Mr. Gxasheka.
What do you refer to by formal qualifications? Is it a distinction between degrees and diplomas on the one hand and other NQF qualifications on the other?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, exactly. That's what I wanted to confirm, that majority of the time, our tenders are focusing on unit standards. And that's what is confusing the institution. Because unit standards, it basically means you would have done certain modules with certain credits, and majority of the time it's very difficult to consolidate and translate it into a formal qualification, especially timeously. So, but if you take a route of having a formal certificate, diploma, degree, honors, masters, it will then assist to improve in our qualification profile of the city. Then you accumulate those unit standards over a longest time. And majority of time, employees, they tend to get tired and never get to finish a formal qualification. So that's what I was aspiring towards, that let's just go once and get formal education. That is my own definition between the unit standards and the degree, certificate, and so forth. Thank you, Chair.
Where does Makosi Makamba work? Presumably she's in HR somewhere, but where is she?
I don't know where she is. I think her contract expired or she resigned. I can't recall, but she's no longer with the city.
Who would have been responsible within the department for this tender?
It was her.
But, presumably it must have been allocated to her for a reason. Would she have sat in strategic HR and talent management, or
yes,
how do you do this within?
She was the divisional head for strategic HR and talent management, and the training and development was falling under her. It was a subdivision in the strategic HR and talent management division.
And you talked about 3 different committees: a specifications committee, a bid evaluation committee, and I think you said bid application, but I think it's bid adjudication committee.
I said adjudication.
You did say, I apologize, I misheard. So the specifications committee would finally sign off on the specifications that go into the tender?
Yes.
And who sits on the specification committee? Who decides what those specifications are?
I will respond from a position of assumptions. As I say, I don't normally go and do this. I haven't done it in a long while. My understanding, the city manager will appoint an HOD for a particular department, and then will also sit with other HODs and with a mix of divisional heads. So it will be comprising of high or senior management.
In relation to the specifications committee?
Yes.
Did you sit on the specifications committee, this one?
No.
So the HOD in this case was not appointed to the specifications committee because you were HOD.
Can you repeat your question?
You were HOD.
Yes.
But you didn't sit on the specifications committee.
Yes, I did.
So there wouldn't have been an HOD on that specifications committee.
If I were to go and sit there, I'll sit to go and present it. To present the item. But what I'm saying, the committee comprises The committee comprises of different HODs and divisional heads from different departments.
I understand now. What about the bid evaluation committee? Who sits in that?
Also, it will be HODs and divisional heads.
Drawn across all departments?
Yes.
But presumably if you have an HR tender, and the bid evaluation committee is checking for compliance with the requirements of the tender, is it not?
Yes.
Before you get to 90-10 or 80-20, you need HR people in there who will understand what is being asked for.
The divisional head would have sat in that as well. I think she will sit in the bid specification, and she will also sit in the bid evaluation committee.
And that would have been Makosi Makamba?
Yes.
And again, on the adjudication committee, who sits?
My understanding on that one, it will be the group chief financial officer, who might be the chair, if I'm not mistaken. It will be the HOD legal, and then it will be other HODs as well. I'm not sure if you'll find a divisional head in that particular committee. Thank you, Chair.
And the bid adjudication committee is the one that makes the final recommendation of an award?
Yes, thank you.
If we look lower down on page 168, sorry, we've moved from 168, but let's stay on 168. Let's go back to 168. It says that acceptable bids will be evaluated by using a system that awards points on the basis of 90 points for bid price and a maximum of 10 points for specific goals. You see that? It's the 90-10.
Yes.
Now, in a system where you're operating 90-10 and 90 goes for price, would you agree that you need to have an objective means of comparing prices? That prices must be, you need to compare apples with apples. That if 90% of the points are going to go on price, the price must be a number that is in fact the price.
I think we're giving opinions, Chair, right here. Because I want to give you my opinion, but in terms of the technical knowledge and expertise, I think finance department can be able to do that. But my opinion, I think I fully agree with you. If the laws and the circulars could change and not only focus on the price, in some particular areas we could get quality of work done. I think before COVID, around 2019, 2020, I served in a bid evaluation committee for a year or less than a year. And it's one of the frustrations I had that in some instances you miss a very brilliant, good company that can deliver. But because of the price, then you have these problems.
No, I understand that dilemma, but if the system says 90-10, then
yes,
price is 90% of all of the points. Now, one of the successful bidders here was a company called Buena Vista Learning Academy. And we see that they were one of the successful bidders in a document that is the document starts earlier, but there is an announcement in November 2023 that we see at page 128 of the same folder, starts at 128. And if we go down the next page if we go down to 130, we will see that the second from last item, row on that item says PSHR 13 of 2023, the appointment of a panel of accredited skills development providers to implement various qualifications and skills programs on as and when required basis from the date of appointment till 30 June 2026, Buena Vista Learning Academy. So they were one of the successful bidders here.
Yes.
Buena Vista are a company which are controlled by the partner of Mr. Kat Matlala, a woman called Tsakani Baloy. And if you go to page 168, sorry, not 168. If you go to page 124, you'll see a Windeed search on Buena Vista. 124. And you'll see under company information that starts at the foot of 123. On 124 it says that the registered address is 23 well, I won't give the address, it's a registered address. And that registered address, if we go down to the next item, just is the same address as the residential address of Tsakani Baloy. You see that?
Yes.
And if we go down to page 123, we'll see that at the time of the bid, there was only one director in Buena Vista, and that was Tsakani Baloy. Both of the other two previous directors had resigned. And we see also, if we go back up to 124, that Ms. Baloy only became a director of the company on the 26th of June 2023. That was a week after the bid invitation had been advertised, and it was less than a month before the closing date for the bid. You see that?
Yes.
And that, I want to put to you, ought to be something of a red flag if one is adjudicating tenders. If one sees that the only director becomes a director after your bid advertisement date and very close to submission date, that should raise some suspicions. Would you accept that? You're nodding.
I agree.
There are more red flags here, because when she became a director, if we go down to page 127.
Your mic, Mr.
If we go down to 127, we know that as a director of this company, she applied in the name of Buena Vista Learning Academy, but at the time she became a director, the company was called Mokoko Grill. It seems to have been a Chesenyama company. That we see at page 127, and the very first item, there was a name change on the 11th of July. And in brackets underneath is the previous name, Mokoko Grill. So after the bid was invited, and less than 2 weeks before the deadline, Mokoko Grill became Buena Vista Learning Academy. I want to put you that was another red flag that might have been picked up if
Yes.
you accept that. Let's look at the bid price. We see that at 169. There it says 7 programs, and it says total bid price 66,500. But if we go to page 158, we see a spreadsheet that the municipality have provided to us of the payments to Buena Vista Learning Academy on this contract. And although they bid with a total bid price of 66,500, in the period from 23 July 2024 to 5 September 2025, they were paid 3,484,987. Do you know how that could have happened?
Okay, I want to understand that the total bid price, it means that you're going to tender for 6,600, for 66,000 for the whole tender. I won't have clarity on that, Chair. As I say, I'm not an expert on that. But on the spreadsheet, it will be the allocation of training as required by departments, where she will then go and train.
So these are payments that are made, and I think I remember recalling in your statement you said that HR itself doesn't have a budget for training.
Yes.
Is that correct? So you can't pay for training, but the line function departments will pay for training.
I've said they are also battling to pay for training. Majority of the time, the training will be paid by the SETA. And the Ekurhuleni, we're still striving to get our own budget.
So when you refer to the city, it's not clear to me what you mean. I mean, technically every department's part of the city, but who do you mean when you say it will be paid for by the city?
The SETA.
Oh, by the SETA?
Yes. We receive grants from the SETA on an annual basis. There will be an indication, then they submit money in the city on a quarterly basis.
So when it says departmental, if we look at page 158, when it says departmental cost center description, projects, HOD's office, projects, management, HOD roads and stormwater, what does that reflect? Surely that reflects payments from particular departments.
It means it's the money allocated. The departments, they will ask for a particular training, and then we'll allocate that training for that department. And once they are done with the training, it will be paid from the SETA's grants. So where it says departments, it means training, it happened in those departments.
So what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is that the city has access to SETA funds,
yes,
or funds that it can use out of its skill development levy payments and the like, and it will allocate from those funds, or certain departments will have a claim on those funds for training.
Yes.
And so the money is ultimately paid for by the city, albeit what it results in is a credit on skills development levies, the funds that the city would otherwise pay to the SETA.
Yes, technically you can say that.
I flagged some of the red flags in this bid. I want to suggest that there were a wide range of others. The first is the CSD registration report. And that one sees at page 311. And it records that the CSD registration on the created date was
apologies, Chair, I'm still getting the page.
311.
Thank you.
It records under created date, which is when the CSD registration takes place, that CSD registration took place on 20 July 2023. So this company was registered with the CSD 4 days before it submitted.
Yes.
It also obtained its BEE certificate 4 days before it submitted its first BEE certificate. One sees that on page 311. You see BEE's certificate issue date, 20 July 2023.
Yes.
We've already seen that the only director was appointed on 26 June 2023. If one goes down to 389, one sees that the bank account was only opened on the 17th of July 2023.
Yes.
Will you agree that all of these are red flags that ought to have been picked up in the tender adjudication process, either by the BEC or the BAC?
I fully agree.
Can I point to another one? If we go to the CSD report, it says that the vendor is not VAT registered. That's at page 313.
Okay, I don't see that part.
If you go to page 313 under tax information, it's got an income tax number, and then it says, is the supplier a VAT vendor? And it says no.
Okay, yes, I can see that.
But if we look at the bid, we see that the turnover that is claimed in the bid, and I've unfortunately lost my reference, is, I think it was 35 million rands in the previous financial year. So there was 35 million rands, I'll get you the reference in a minute. 35 million rands of turnover in the bid, cited in the bid.
191.
Sorry. Commissioner?
The turnover on 191.
On page 191, thank you very much. What was your turnover in the previous financial year? It says 35,174,600 rands. And what's significant, if we go back to page 311, is that if we look at the industry classification that is described for Buena Vista Learning Academy, it says its core industry is not, in fact, training, but construction. So it says on page 311...
Perhaps you should have concluded the point about not being VAT registered, and yet there's a 35 million.
I need to refer to construction because
thank you.
There are training providers who don't have to be VAT registered.
Oh, thank you.
But there are no construction companies that don't have to be VAT registered. So if we look at what is said in the CSD report, it says the core industry is construction, and the percentage share of annual turnover is 35% from construction activities. And if we take the 35 millions quoted in the bid as the previous financial year's turnover, 35% of that would be over 10 million rands, which is way over the VAT threshold. So there seems to be a fraud of some sort taking place here. Either it's a VAT fraud, you're nodding.
I think so, yeah, I wouldn't know.
Or this turnover figure is a fictitious figure. Either way, there is a fraud either on the city or on the receiver. There seems definitely to be a fraud on the city because, the city or the Department of Finance, because if we go back to page 311, although the bid says we saw annual turnover was 35 million, we see that the CSD registration says that the total annual turnover is 10 million or less. So one of those two figures must be lying, possibly both. Do you agree that this VAT fraud ought to have been picked up in the course of the adjudication process and ought to have resulted in a disqualification of this bidder?
Yes, without having technical knowledge, I fully agree though. As I say, finance, they can answer better on this, but us seeing here, I fully agree with you. So, thank you.
Can I point to another fraud that ought to have been picked up in the process? If you go to page 181, you'll see that Buena Vista described its principal business activities as training and skills development.
Yes.
But if we go to the CSD at page 311, we see that we're told that its principal business is in fact construction.
Yes.
They can't both be true. You agree?
As I say, from my level, I don't know your expertise. It looks like there is some discrepancies, unless they are saying they are doing training on construction of buildings. I don't know, but from what we see, I see those irregularities. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chaskalson, what do we do with industry classification 2? Because there they do mention that it's education.
Indeed, but if one looks at principal activity, 35% is for construction. I think it was a 25% for education. 35 for construction is a 25 for education. So the principal activity of this company, according to the CSD report, is construction. Can we go to page 184 of the bid? 184. There it says that the legal entity is a company, not a joint venture. You see that?
Yes.
But if one looks at the bid, it is based on partnership agreements, which is what one would expect to see in a joint venture, not a company. So we see that at page 303, the bid is supported by a subcontracting agreement where the principal is CTC College, Pty Limited, and the second partner is Buena Vista. And I'd ask you to note that CTC College is represented by MJ Madzibadela. We're going to come back to MJ Madzibadela later. There's a partnership agreement there. And if we go to page 375, we see another partnership agreement, this time described as a memorandum of understanding between Leda Cleaning and Security and Buena Vista Learning Academy. Now, the bid had to be based on a partnership because Buena Vista, being a Chesunyama company, or apparently a Chesunyama company that until recently was in a completely different industry, had no training accreditations of its own. So if we look through this bit, we will see that there are no training accreditations that Buena Vista itself had. And let me take you there. But for now, before I take you there, would you agree that if Buena Vista had no training accreditations of its own, it couldn't qualify for this bid? Certainly not without entering into a JV with somebody who did.
I'm going to repeat that I'm agreeing with you from the layman's point of view, and I don't want to say I'm talking here on behalf of Finance Department. From the layman's point of view, but I'm sure finance will have reasons and understanding of how subcontracting works. So I don't want me conceding to be a position of the finance department. I'm just saying from the layman's point of view, all this looks very strange. Thank you, Chair.
Let's go to accreditation. There were a series of accreditation letters put up by Buena Vista. There were 5 in all. The first one appears at 343. Sorry, the first one appears at page 332. And you'll see that that accreditation letter is issued to a company with a similar name, but a different company. A company called Buena Vista 143 Pty Limited.
Yes.
But it was issued if one looks at the print date, on 5 April 2023.
Yes.
When this company wasn't called Buena Vista Learning Academy, it was called Mokoko Grill. You recall that?
Yes, I recall that, the name of Mokoko.
So it had to have been issued to a different company altogether, because if it was issued to this company, it would have been addressed to Mokoko Grill. The name only changed in July 2023.
Chair, I keep on agreeing on certain things, and my concern here, I'm not a technical expert on this, and I don't want to sound like I'm going to be supporting irregularities. But I see something that says, attention, Mpho Matsibadela. Excuse me if
Mpho Matsibadela, yes, we're going to get to Mpho Matsibadela.
Yes.
You'll recall that Mpho Matsibadela was part of CTC, the partnership agreement.
Yes.
So this is an accreditation letter issued to a different company with a similar name, that issued to a company belonging to the person who has now apparently, if indeed these are not all forgeries, who appears to have gone into partnership with Buena Vista Learning Academy.
Yes.
But it's not an accreditation letter for Buena Vista Learning Academy.
Well, it says here Buena Vista 143 Pty. I don't know what that means, or it's another company of Buena Vista. Yeah, but I agree with you. It's not the same as the initial name on the tender.
Indeed, it's not the same, and it couldn't have been the same, because
yes.
At the time that this letter was issued, if this letter is not an entire forgery, 5 April 2023. The company hadn't changed its name to Buena Vista Learning Academy Pty Limited. It was still called Mokoko Grill Pty Limited. It only changed its name 4 months later.
Yes.
Now, the fact that an accreditation letter to a company with a similar but different name is included in a bid for Buena Vista Learning Academy strikes me as an attempt fraudulently to pass off this accreditation letter as an accreditation letter of Buena Vista Learning Academy. Do you have any comment on that?
I will repeat, in some areas I sort of agree with you where I see irregularities, but I will not make deductions on behalf of another department. Thank you.
Well, I also want to put to you that this attempted fraud ought to have been picked up, and it should have resulted in the disqualification of Buena Vista Learning Academy. You're nodding.
I'm nodding. As I said, from our layman's point of view on my side, it should have been picked up. I agree with you, Chair. Thank you.
The second accreditation letter is at page 343. That's an accreditation letter issued to CTC College Pty Limited. The third, and again, it's not for Buena Vista, the third accreditation letter at page 357 is issued to CTC College, and here we see Mr. Mpho Madzibadela as the addressee. Again, it's an accreditation not to Buena Vista but to another entity. The fourth accreditation, page 370, is again to CTC College, not to Buena Vista. The fifth accreditation is to Ngeda Cleaning, and you'll remember that Ngeda Cleaning were the second entity with whom there was a partnership agreement.
Yes.
Again, there's no accreditation of Buena Vista.
Did you mention the page?
372. 372.
Thank you.
So Buena Vista produced no evidence of any accreditation that would have qualified it for this contract. Do you accept that?
Yes, from the layman's point of view, I accept that. Thank you.
What do you mean by that? I mean, this one does nothing because in respect of everything else you've been saying, you lack the necessary expertise. I don't see the expertise here. This is about letters of accreditation. If you think there are letters elsewhere, maybe that's what you should say. This one has nothing to do with the expertise which has been your refrain throughout.
I think, Chair, what I'm trying to say, there's certain processes regarding subcontracting and also working with certain institutions on matters. I just grappling to understand how those agreements work. Hence, I'm saying from my point of view, indeed, something doesn't look right, but I don't want to speak for the finance department because they will be a technical expert and understanding how maybe these things are done, Chair.
Technical experts who will say there were letters of accreditation directed to Buena Vista training. This is a simple factual issue. I do not see this expertise that you keep referring to, at least not on this instance or not in this regard.
Chair, maybe we're not understanding each other. I'm saying
I understand you perfectly. I understand what you are saying, but I do not understand what you mean by it. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm saying, Chair, there are ways finance will do things about partnership, about memorandum of understanding to ensure that there's compliance. I don't want to speak for them, for that department, but I'm saying from where I'm sitting, I'm not from finance, things doesn't look good. I agree with you, but I'm saying my position, I wouldn't say, I might say it doesn't look good as Linda, but they can come and say the reason these things happened, it was because of this and have an explanation.
I will not take it any further, but I just do not understand because this is about is there or isn't there a letter. It's a simple fact, nothing about expertise, but as I say, I will leave it there.
One of the other requirements of the bid was letters of reference. There was a letter of reference at page 317. It came from the city of Johannesburg, but it was a reference in support not of Buena Vista, but of CTC College.
Yes, I see that.
So that tells us nothing about Buena Vista.
Yes.
Then at 3 to 8, we see a reference which is in favor of Buena Vista, but it comes from CTC College. And the ubiquitous MJ Madzibadela. So at 318 we see there is a letter purporting to be a reference in favor of Buena Vista in recognition of their exceptional performance in successfully delivering the training, recognition of prior learning assessment and moderation for National Certificate in Occupational Health, Safety and Environment, NQF Level 2 program for 80 learners. Buena Vista has consistently demonstrated their dedication to providing a comprehensive and high-quality education. The training program developed and executed by BVLA has effectively covered all the necessary components of the national certificate. On and on it goes. But it comes from Mr. Madzibadela, who is their ostensible partner in this project. Then there's another one, also a reference letter for Buena Vista. That's on page 319, coming from a company called Symbol Consulting. And would you believe it? It's also signed by Mr. Madzibadela. Page 319.
Yes, I can see that.
And just to complete the picture in relation to Mr. Madzibadela, he also pops up in the bid at page 357, where he is, and I think we've actually been there already. Yes, this is the third accreditation letter, which is for CTC, and which is addressed to him personally. So it seems to me that what's taking place here is definitely a fraud, and it may or may not involve Mr. Madzibadela. It may be done completely without his knowledge. All of these things may be being put up without his knowledge. Or he may be colluding in it. We just don't know. But what we do know is that Ms. Baloyi and Buena Vista Learning Academy have, in this application, perpetrated a fraud on the city and have taken almost 3.5 million rands out of the city as a result of that fraud. Would you agree with that?
From the deductions that are made, I agree with you, Chair. Thank you.
Before I leave this topic, let's look at the financials that were put up by Buena Vista. Page 395 is where we find the 2023 financials. And they purport to be certified by an accountant. I won't mention his name, but we are going to call him, because if he did certify these financials, he has something to answer for. If he didn't, then we need to know that his name has been used fraudulently. On the following page, page 396, there is a signature of Ms. Baloyi as director. And what you'll notice about both of these pages is neither of the signatures is dated. One doesn't see a date on any of this, which I want to put to you ought to have been another red flag. One doesn't see financials that are signed without a date in the ordinary course of business.
I fully agree, Chair.
There is another fraud, which is that if one looks at page 403 of the financials, and bear in mind that these are financials for the year ending February 2023, we see there is a note in relation to directors' remuneration, which says that a salary of over R1 million was paid to the director Tsakani Baloy, or T. Baloy. But of course, in the year ending February 2023, Ms. Baloy was not a director of this company.
I agree, Chair.
So what we have is a bid that is full of transparent frauds, but none of them seem to have been picked up in your procurement process, in the city's procurement process. Do you have any way of explaining how this could have happened? It's not just one disqualifying feature that was missed, it's about 10.
Thank you, Chair. As I said, I'm not involved in the procurement processes. I've explained it, all those three committees. I don't sit. The line department, who's got a tender that is ongoing, doesn't sit there. Finance might need to explain. It's going to be very important, Chair, that I explain. I've never seen this lady in my life. The only time I saw her, it was on TV when this whole thing started. If she goes in a mall, I go in a mall, we'll probably pass each other. I don't know her. I've never seen her. If what happened here, the perception is she was done favors, it will have to be taken with finance. I'm not involved in these processes. Thank you, Chair.
You see, on the strength of a bid that should have been disqualified on any one of a number of obvious grounds, the city has paid 3.5 million. And it's paid it to a person who just happens to be the partner of Kat Matlala, who is driving around with blue lights that were obtained through the city. Does that not strike you as somewhat worrying on both fronts?
Chair, when I was speaking to my legal team yesterday, and we're going through the payments, this is one of the companies. At some point I said, they mustn't be utilized. Initially, when I took over, after I think Makosi left and I started being involved here before we could fill the position on training issues, I picked up that there was no rotation. Therefore, we couldn't guarantee equitable share of service providers. I called my team in that division and I said, this must be done correctly. I further called the head of EPMO to come and assist in terms of coming with the system to ensure that bidders are given equal opportunity. And there were about 2 or 3 bidders. I was not necessarily happy with their work. And if I recall, this was one of them. I said, when I saw that there was a payment that happened in November last year, I was a bit concerned because in my take, I said, let's stop utilizing this bidder. But because I would have been involved probably to sign the order, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't find those documents here. I can't explain why did we continue with this bidder, but there were 2 of them I was not happy with their work, and the certain demands that I understood that they might have wanted to do work specifically for EMPD, and I put a red flag on that. And I will still take full accountability that continued to be utilized, despite the fact that I said I'm not happy with them. There were 2 or 3 of them I said I'm not happy. And I really want to emphasize, I've never seen this late in my life. But I did pick up that the work that they were doing, I was not 100% happy with, and some of the demands that were starting to be made. Thank you, Chair.
So can I ask a couple of issues flowing from your response? You seem to have had a range of concerns. The one is that the work was not satisfactory. Is that this company was not providing training of a sort that you've regarded as satisfactory?
In terms of the tender that we agree, what must happen on the tender, if I can recall some of the areas, you train, after training you give certificates. And sometimes how the certificates are done and how long they take to be done, it gives problems. So as I say, as much as I can't recall all the events, there were 3 of them I was not happy with how they do the work and how long it takes to get the certificates. I think it was in one of those reasons that I said, let's not use this particular company.
And this was one of those companies?
Yes, Chair. Hence I'm saying I got shocked when I saw that there was, again, I'm not sure that the payments that happened towards the end of the year, because we don't always pay immediately after the work has been done. If it was after I've stopped or it happened before I said they must stop being utilized, that I couldn't answer to, Chair. Thank you.
And when would you have raised your concerns and asked for this company and 2 others not to be paid any further?
I think it would have been, let me check, I don't have specific dates. I don't have specific dates. But it was during the time I started looking at the allocation of work and the equitable share. And then also the performance, because one of the systems I've put in place was we must report to finance of the work that is done quarterly. So I can't recall which quarter and when did I do that red flag, but I did pick up as one of the red flags and the companies I wasn't happy with. Thank you, Chair.
I mean, can you give us any specificity? Are we talking about 2024, 2025? When would this have been?
Okay, if I can just get the page of the invoices. I think it would have been towards end of 2024 or early 2025, Chair. I think, yeah, towards end. It would have been maybe, let's say, around that April 2025, maybe.
There's another issue with this payment schedule before we get to the payment schedule, can I ask you, you said that there was an allocation issue that concerned you. Do I understand you correctly, meaning that there was, as it were, a panel of service providers who'd been appointed? There were more than one successful bidders on that bid, and this service provider was getting more than their fair share. Is that what the concern was?
It might not be this one in particular would have got more share. There would have been more others that would have got more than she would have. So when I was talking about equitable share, I wasn't specifically focusing on this particular one. I was just talking in general for the whole panel that has been appointed.
So that was one of the issues you were addressing. You were addressing 2 issues. You were addressing allocation and you were addressing quality of work. Yes. And you recall that this provider was flagged for one or both of those issues.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
Who did you raise these issues with? And where would there be a documentary record of it?
The documents, it will be the allocation schedule. And I raised it with, as I say, head of EPMO. And the lady was assisting after Makosi left. But in terms of records, what records you can get in the city is the allocation schedule. Thank you, Chair.
But if you raised it with someone, there should be a documentary record of that. I mean, presumably it would be written down somewhere in an email or in a memorandum. Where would we go to find that?
The allocation schedule, you should find it in HR or you should find it in finance. As I say, if I recall, we also submit quarterly reports. So between, I wouldn't know the name specifically in finance, but in HR, from the training team, I think the acting HOD will able to assist where the team can collate the documents and make them available.
But that's the allocation schedule, but I understand that, or maybe I'm misunderstanding your evidence. Did you issue any instruction to someone saying, don't allocate work to this service provider, either they've got too much already or they're not giving us certificates? Will we find an email or a memorandum to that effect?
I'm not 100% sure if there will be an email. When my team raised the issue, their concerns, and I follow up those concerns, I then made that decision there and there that don't allocate this person work. Sometimes when they do bring the allocation schedule, I do make comments, but I can't recall. Hence I'm saying I think in the allocation schedule, you should get some of the answers you're looking for.
But I'm still trying to understand the process here. There must be written records of decisions of this nature. Where will we find them?
Hence I'm saying on the allocation schedule, it should give a direction. Rather than that, I doubt you'll have any other information. But I can check the emails. I will ask the city, or they can assist you because I think they do have access to my emails to check if there would be any discussions of that nature.
Who produced the allocation schedules?
It's the divisions, talent, HR strategic and talent division. There's two ladies. There's a gentleman and the lady. There's Zama and the gentleman, I think is called Ngozi. I forgot his name. They will be the ones that will bring the schedules.
Mr. Shaskalson is asking for proof of you having queried the allocations, and you referred to the allocation schedules which you say were produced by other people, not by you.
Yes.
So he wants to understand how you referred to that if it was not your document.
As I say, Chair, I would normally make comments. I'm hoping that those comments can be found. And another way it will be seeing the pattern. There should have been a change from beginning of when we started allocating and how the tender started going. You know, I can't recall all the events now, but sometimes, for instance, I wouldn't sign a document. I'll just return it and say I'm not happy. So that's why it becomes difficult to get all the evidence. But I'm sure the lady is very helpful. Uzama can able to assist.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to clarify, I had understood your evidence earlier to be that when purchase orders were brought to you, you refused to sign them. So you are surprised that subsequent to that, there were payments made to this company. Did I understand that part correctly?
I said, Chair, I was shocked that there was a continuity up to towards the end of 2025. And I said, I take full accountability. That's what I said to the legal team. I should have picked it up. So, you know, so I'm taking full accountability. But surely, I know for sure that I was not happy with their work.
But what did you say something about purchase orders and the fact that you had to sign them and you refused to sign them?
No, I said, Chair, I made a note and maybe an instruction that says, let's stop utilizing this company because of the challenges they brought to me.
And
however,
sorry to interrupt you, where would we find that, where you made a note that we should not use this company anymore?
I said we might not have that. The only thing that can assist is the schedule, because sometimes I do make comments. I'm hoping that we can able to find that. Number two, you will see in the schedule that I don't think it's the worst company, it's the best company we paid, the highest. It's probably the lowest of the lowest. That you'll able to see that panel can guarantee you. So to me, what lacked in this evidence was that schedule. Or looking at all other companies, instead of focusing on this one, it will tell you how their funding was allocated. If that can be found, it will really assist this commission. Thank you.
Mr. Chaskas.
Mr. Gxasheka, just to understand about the purchase orders, were you responsible, or were you in the chain of signing purchase orders?
I would have been a chain, Chair. As I say that it's, the work will start at that division and then ultimately come to me. Even that evidence will be important because I would like to know, was I signing everything? If I did not, maybe might find that I didn't even sign the last ones, you know. So, I would really like us to find that information.
Would any payments, be approved if they did not have if the purchase order, there was no purchase order with your signature on it?
It might be if the signing document, the purchase order doesn't need my signature. But if it needs my signature, it can't be paid. So hence I'm saying I'm not 100% sure if I was signing after I said they must stop or I did not. I would like to see those documents for me to comment.
Yeah, I'm not asking a question about before or after. I'm trying to understand how the system works. This is a service for your department. You're the HOD. You said something about purchase orders, and you signing, and I'm trying to clarify that evidence that in the normal course, do you as HOD, if things are done regularly and properly, do you as HOD sign purchase orders?
Yes.
Okay. And would they be paid in the normal course? If in the normal course you sign purchase orders, would they be paid without your signature?
In fact, the payment, it doesn't happen after purchase order. Chairperson, through you, Chair. It happens after the invoice.
Yes.
Has been signed off by the department and my team and say that the work has been done.
Yes.
Then, under normal circumstances, I must sign that invoice before finance pays.
Yes.
Yes.
So unless there was any irregularity, as in removing your name as one of the signatories or someone forging your signature or representing that they are you, payment would not be made unless you have also signed off.
Yes, it should be like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I propose to move to a different topic at this stage unless there are further questions from the Commission on the issue of this tender.
Can I just ask, I'm not sure how that I understood. No, I know I didn't understand what your answer is if you gave it. Mr. Chaskalson asked you about your role and involvement with this procurement process. And somewhere in your answer, you said, I would have made a presentation to the bid specification committee. Correct me, you will correct me if I misheard you, or you were just speaking generally. That's one. Keep note that. And then the second one was you were explaining who sits in the BAC, the Bid Adjudication Committee. You said the CFO, and then you said HOD. According to my notes, you said CFO, HOD, and other HODs. Can you just explain that? So clarify first whether I heard you properly to say you would have made a presentation, and then the second is who in fact are the other HODs. When you say HODs, how do they get selected?
Thank you, Chair. I said at the beginning, Chair, my role on the bid specification process, I commented on a document that is crafted by Makosi. And I said they've been doing these kind of documents for years now. My only concern was that it doesn't have formal qualifications like a degree or honors and postgrad. If I'm not mistaken, let me correct myself, they might have a few diplomas and certificates, but a degree, and majority of our adverts and they want a degree. That was my comment. Going to the bid specification committee, I need to be understood. There's about 20 something HODs. So the city manager will appoint committees, bid specification committee, bid evaluation committee, and bid education committee. And those committees comprises of HODs and divisional heads. Then on the BAC committee, it will comprise of, you correct, I did say, I think the chairperson is the group CFO, and then he will sit with other HODs from the city. And my understanding, once a document, a tender has been adjudicated, it then goes to the city manager for the final signature. But the adjudicating committee would have made a recommendation. So that is my understanding of how these processes go.
I think what I wanted to understand is the other HODs. When you say HODs, who sits there? Does the client department, such as you, for example, in this contract that we are talking about, or in this bid we are talking about, so you are the client, you are procuring the service. Do you get as HOD to sit in the BAC? No. Is there a rule that says you don't sit, or it just happens that way, that you were not selected to come and sit on this one?
I was not part of any of these committees. The city manager used her discretion to appoint these 3 committees, and I don't serve in any of the 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a small matter of clarity. When you commented about the sort of qualifications that you thought should have been specified, or rather, which Ms. Baloyi did not have, according to you, in what capacity did you comment?
I commented as endorsing the bid specification document from the division, my division, one of the divisions I'm responsible for, when they come with the criteria. So I've said, you always using these similar qualifications. I'm aspiring that we move beyond just having diplomas or unit standards. Can we include degrees and others? That's all my comment was.
At what stage of the process was this?
It would have been before they go to bid specification.
So during once bids were in, you never participated at any stage?
As I said, I don't know if it's a rule, but my observation for all years I've been in the city, if it's your department that is tendering,
okay,
I haven't seen an HOD who go and present an item in any of those 3 structures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I said I wanted to leave this topic, but just flowing from those questions, it does occur to me that there's something else I need clarity on. At what stage before the bid, or how long does it take before the bid goes out for public invitation for the bid to be finalized for the bid specifications to be finalized at bid specification committee? In fact, if you can take me through the process from the very beginning, because presumably this process is triggered by a decision in your department, we need to procure these services. Then there's a process of finalizing specifications. Then the specifications are adopted by the bid specification committee. Then there's an invitation that's put out publicly. Then then tenders get submitted and go through the BEC and the BAC. I'm interested in understanding the length of the process before the invitation. So at what point in relation to this tender would a decision have been taken, we need to ask for new service providers for training?
Without specifying through you, Chair, understanding how National Treasury crafts the circulars, but the ideal situation, it must be 6 months before the current running tender expires. So it would, it normally should start, if it's going to end in June, June the following year, it should start about January.
And there was a running tender in place in this case that was going to expire. Was there a training tender in place?
Yes, there would have been a tender in place.
No, not there would have been. I mean, you were head of department. Was there or wasn't there?
There was.
There was. So 6 months before the expiry of that tender, there would have been a decision taken, let's get ready for the next tender. And do you know when that tender expired? Because the closing date for this bid was the 24th of July. So you wouldn't have, I would imagine you would have wanted to leave some time for the bid to be awarded, rather than having a period where your old tender expired, your new one hadn't been awarded, and you then had to extend or find some other solution.
And what's your question?
So when would the old tender have expired?
It would have been, normally it expires end of June. So it would have been end of June 2023 or 2024. Our financial year ends in June. So it would have been June between those two, 2023 or 2024.
But the closing date for this tender was 24 July. So the bids had to come in on the 24th of July.
Which year?
2023.
Okay.
But if the bids are in on the 24th of July 2023, it certainly couldn't have been that the old tenders were expiring in June 2023 unless there was mismanagement of the process. Do you accept that?
It happens sometimes, and the reason being, hence even a National Treasury standard says start 6 months before, but sometimes you'll find out between the department and the bid specification committee, there's left and right, and eventually they find each other, then endorsed, then gets advertised. Then after being advertised, it goes to evaluation processes. Even there, sometimes there will be back and forth, and the aim is to identify these irregularities we identified here today. And in those instances, it doesn't always happen. There might be an extension of the previous tender.
So you can't tell us exactly when the old tender would have expired, but you think it is likely that it would have expired either in June 2023 or in June 2024. Thank you. That clarifies that for me. The next topic that I want to move to is very briefly just to deal with two issues relating to Mr. Spies, and I don't want to spend too much time, but the first relates to your allegation yesterday that what Mr. Spies did in respect of I think it was the Sintel tender, was misconduct, and you slightly backed off from the allegation that this was fraud. But were you aware yesterday that Mr. Spies's challenge to his suspension in that regard has gone to arbitration, and an arbitration award has been made in favor of Mr. Spies against the city? Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware. In fact, I was shocked when I saw it, because when it was supposed to have happened, the next appearance date, I think it was a month ago, we had an understanding with the city's lawyers that they will allow me to appear here at Madlanga Commission, and then thereafter I will go and present my case there. So I wasn't aware. I only saw it when you sent to the legal team I work with. Thank you.
Because there are certain features of this arbitration award I want quickly to run through with you, because it's not just an award in favor of Mr. Spies, it is a truly emphatic award in favor of Mr. Spies. On page 421 of the bundle.
Mr. Chaskasin, we put away the tender documents 5.
Yes, although I think it's probably going to be in the same file. It's page 421 of the same file.
Oh, yes.
The award.
418 of file 2 of 2.
It should have been filed at the back of your.
Yes.
Is it? It is.
Yeah. In the supplementary.
Sorry. Yes. So at page 421, on 5 February 2025, the applicant was served with a letter of intention to suspend dated 4 February, which was signed by Linda Gxasheka and Maripa Machokocha. The applicant stated that he had handed in his uniform, equipment, etc. on 6 and 7 January because he was leaving the city already. Is that correct?
I don't know. Apologies, I wouldn't know. You would hand over to, if it's in case that's how they work, you don't work your notice, then you would have handed over to EMPD. Apologies,
well,
I don't have
But isn't that something that you ought to have investigated before you decided to issue a notice of suspension? Because if he, in fact, had already handed in his uniform and equipment and was not working off his notice because he had accrued leave or whatever, then what on earth was the point of a suspension?
It's something that I'll learn from it, and it will need to be investigated and ensure it doesn't happen going forward. In terms of Basic Conditions of Employment Act, when you serve your notice, you don't take leave. So if it happened in that department, they will need to correct it.
But if he had handed, surely this is something you ought to have investigated before you decided to suspend someone. You suspended someone who, at least on the factual finding in this arbitration, wasn't going to be at work for any period of the suspension anyway.
As I said, Chair, I wouldn't think that the department won't comply with Basic Conditions of Employment Act. In your last working months, or your last working month specifically, you don't take leave. So I wouldn't proactively think that, let me investigate that an employee who's serving a notice is not at work, because it's not supposed to be like that. But now that we learn from here, in the future is something that a person would look at. Thank you, Chair.
But isn't it something that you should have investigated? One of the reasons this suspension was set aside is that you didn't afford Mr. Spies any hearing whatsoever before deciding to suspend him. Isn't this an illustration of what purpose a hearing might have served? If you'd heard him, he'd have said, well, look, I'm not going to be here anyway, so why suspend me?
As I said, I expected that if you're serving a notice, you should be at work. Now that we know that he was not at work, it's something that I would look in the future.
That wasn't my question. My question was, if you had given him a hearing, this would have come out and you would have understood that a suspension would have served no purpose, but you didn't give him a hearing.
What happens, you get a notice of the intention to suspend, you respond to that, and then the suspension happens. And after that suspension happened, there was an investigation report that was done. So the process was followed. I'm not 100% sure when you say we must have given him a hearing. Maybe I'm missing you, Chair. Through you, Chair.
Well, let me leave that one. Can I take you to...
Can I just ask, the process that we have come to know works at EMPD is you first give an intention, a notice of intention to suspend. That's what Mr. Chaskasan is discussing with you. That there's an intention to suspend before you say, I have suspended you now. And that hearing is they respond to your intention to suspend and say why they should not be suspended. That did not happen here. In fact, what Commissioner Spies said is the same time as he got his intention to suspend, he actually was told you are suspended. And you are responsible for that process.
Chair, I would have to go through the document thoroughly. I think we're speaking the same thing, that my understanding of the process is it will be notice to suspend, you reply, and then we suspend. If there was an irregularity on that, I will need to investigate. It shouldn't have happened that way. And as I say, I have not had enough time to thoroughly go through these documents and get the award. Maybe after lunch can I respond to that? But ideally, the process is we suspend. Where we normally differ, it's when we say while you are being served, then bring the documents. But normally you respond. After responding, then the determination is made.
When we come back from lunch, I would like you to provide an explanation of what happened here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There's another significant finding here. If we go to paragraph 12 on page 423, where the arbitrator appears to have had regard to the recommendation of the bid adjudication committee and the decision of Dr. Mashazi, because he refers to documents. The Sintel contract was extended from 1 July 2024 after the contract was re-evaluated by the bid evaluation committee. The applicant referred to the minutes of the bid adjudication committee dated 28 June 2024, vide A134 forward, and he pointed out he wasn't present at the meeting. The bid adjudication committee inter alia recommended to the city manager on 28 June that the appointment of Sintel be extended to 31 December 2024, and he cites page 170. On 30 June 2024, the city manager, Mashazi, approved the extension of the Sintel contract until 31 December 2024, A171. What is your comment to that? Have you ever seen the bid adjudication committee recommendation and the decision of Dr. Mashazi?
Thank you, Chair. I've seen them, but I'll just need to check again in terms of the dates where there was a discrepancy. After, in the documents and the minutes, if I recall properly that I read, it said it was approved for 90 days. But then, after the 90 days expired, it continues beyond the 90 days. I will just try and find that document. But the issue was the discrepancy in terms of the additional 3 months.
We have an arbitrator saying that there is a recommendation that is approved that says the appointment of Sintel Pty Limited ... be extended to 31 December 2024. Are you saying there's no such recommendation?
I'll have to check, Chair. All I know is if there was a 6 months extension, then there was an additional 3 months that was not approved. The issue that was at concern was the additional 3 months beyond what has been approved by Dr. Mashaz.
But look at what the arbitrator finds. On 30 June 2024, the city manager approved the extension of the Sintel contract until 31 December 2024. And there's a reference to a page. Can I take you to another document that actually reinforces this? It's page 256 of your annexure bundle, not the evidence bundle, so it will be file 2 of 6. Two five six.
Yeah.
This is a letter from Sintel to the city. There are 2 paragraphs I would emphasize. The first is paragraph 2. As you are aware, the extension letter was ambiguous regarding the term of the extension. Upon verbal confirmation between Ms. Agnes van Rooyen and Mr. Johnny van der Merwe, it was confirmed that the extension is for a minimum of 3 months up to 30 September and a maximum of 6 months up to 31 December. That's the letter that's given to the supplier. And then, paragraph 3, over the past 3 months, we received various informal communications, since neither WhatsApp or email communication constitutes an official notice to terminate the contract, from Colonel van Rooyen and DCOP Spies that the contract terminated in September. So here is the supplier saying, Chief Spies has told us that the contract terminates in September, but in fact, the letter of appointment says it runs to December. And you are taking disciplinary action against Chief Spies for allowing a contract which an arbitrator finds runs to December to run beyond September when he has written to the supplier saying this contract terminates in September. Do you have a comment on that?
The issue, Chair, is exactly that there were verbal discussions that were taking place, and there were also understanding was the 30th of September. And putting somebody on suspension, Chair, it's not being punitive. It's for us to investigate the matter. So in this instance, we needed to ensure that River Spies and John van der Merwe are accounting for the confusion. The intention was not to punish anybody. So the disciplinary process started because we needed a clarity that there's verbal discussions versus what the contract might have ran. And decisions were made by EMPD, and our role as HR was to just assist them to ensure that there's clarity with this tender. Yes, I agree with you, the tender would have said up to 3 months and a maximum of 6 months, but the decision to ensure it's maximum of 6 months, it was the decision of EMPD, and we were assisting EMPD with the investigation.
But what this letter says is the opposite of that. It says that Mr. Spies has written to them, either on WhatsApp or email, saying this contract terminated in September. Did you do any process of investigating whether that had taken place and whether Mr. Spies was totally innocent of the alleged misconduct that it seems Mr. Mkonazi and yourself wanted to lay at his door?
The reason for putting him on suspension was to conduct that investigation, exactly that, Chair. If maybe he did not leave the city, we could have even exonerated him. But we all know the intention of putting somebody on suspension is to ensure that you investigate further without the interference of that witness. And that's the approach and the support we're providing from HR.
But you knew he was already leaving the city. You knew already in January that he was leaving the city. He'd given notice of early retirement in January. And he was going to leave the city with effect from the end of February. So you, in the first week of February, knowing that he's going at the end of the month, put him on suspension. Can you explain why?
And if I may add to that, he's already at home because he's serving 1 month notice. So he's saying, my 1 month leave, which I'm owed, my notice period, I will serve it while I'm at home. So already he's not at work. What's the reason for suspending him when he's at home and not at work?
As I said, Chair, is the suspension is to investigate. The issue that an employee is sitting at home and serving notice at home, it should not have happened. A notice you serve at home. And the issue of suspension, let's say he was at work serving a notice. It was for him to be away from the process, but I was not aware he was already at home from the side of the HR, because I would have stopped that and said he was supposed to be at home. And just because you're serving a notice, Chair, it doesn't mean you cannot be investigated.
Perhaps we should take the lunch adjournment at this stage.
Can I just make one last comment? If you look at paragraph 28 of this arbitration award, the arbitrator makes an extraordinarily far-reaching finding. He says, I am not satisfied that the respondent ever believed that there was a prima facie case of misconduct against the applicant, either regarding his alleged appointment of Syntel or regarding his extension of the Syntel contract. When an employer suspends an employee without having any reasonable basis to do so, it is axiomatic that the suspension of the employee constitutes unfair disciplinary action, short of dismissal. Essentially, you have an arbitrator finding that the city has acted in bad faith towards Mr. Spies. And that is in a process that you appear to have driven. What's your comment on that?
Chair, an arbitrator will always make its own judgment, and based on the evidence that is provided in front of that arbitrator. And awards that are made are always subject to review. And what is shocking in this matter is that it was concluded without my evidence, where I would have fully prepared and go and testify on this matter. So every arbitration is subject to review. I'm not in the city now. The city can decide that they want to review or they want to pay Mr. Rivospis. Really, my comment is that every award is subjected to a review. And without me participating in that arbitration process, I will not take accountability for those who went and embark on this process. They must take accountability. At least if they waited for me to prepare after coming here next week, I would have been there and I would have put my story, and then the arbitrator make a final decision. At this point in time, all I can say, every arbitration award is subject to a review and is subject to the facts that were put in front of the arbitrator at that point in time. And Chair, I want to agree that I've seen that there's things that we could have done better. I want to agree on that. We could have done things better. And I've gone through that document. I didn't even browse. I just slid just through it. And I think if I can put my detail into it and go through it, and if I was given an opportunity, I don't know what the arbitration outcome would have been. Thank you, Chair.
What I do want to say is that in your statement, you accused Mr. Spies in this regard of fraud. Now, do you want to withdraw that allegation at this point? Do you want to apologize to Mr. Spies?
Chair, I already spoke yesterday about issues of fraud. And I think Commissioner Baloyi, we discussed that thoroughly. And I said,
it was in a different context.
It was about
the pension payout.
Yes.
You're being asked about these charges, this charge of disciplinary?
I need to respond to that.
Yes.
The issue, Chair, we discussed about fraud yesterday and was asked to withdraw. It was exactly the issue of pension fund. And the issue of the extension of the contract is something else. And what I'm saying, I don't know if my statement, I spoke about fraud when it comes to the Sintel issue, or I was referring to the process that we embarked upon in terms of the allegations that were brought to the fore. If they are, I will go through my statement and I will come and give another answer if there is need to have another answer after lunch. But I don't recall talking about fraud issues on this particular matter.
Let me help you. Paragraph 104 of your statement. He was suspended for the fraud and related matters of the extension of the service provider contract. Page 35, paragraph 104.
Yes, hence I've said that the issues of fraud, I will come and clarify after lunch, the issues of fraud that we embarked upon, it was in relation to how the retirement was embarked upon.
No. You say he was suspended for the fraud-related matters of the extension of the service provider contract. You say that in paragraph 104 of your statement.
Okay.
Do you want to look at paragraph
104, page 35.
That does not require consideration and a response after lunch. It's your statement. So please have a look.
Come again, Chair?
I'm saying that does not require that you consider it during lunch and come and respond after lunch. It's your own statement. So please have a look at that paragraph and respond.
Okay, I'm looking for it.
And respond to the question.
Okay, in terms of the disciplinary action, paragraph 62, reverse disciplinary proceedings emanating from an unauthorized extension of a service provider's contract beyond the BAC, Bid Adjudication Committee, agreed 3 months. Reverse informed the Commission that he has retired and he
Mrs. Gxasheka, page 35 of your statement, paragraph 104, in line 5.
Okay, maybe I'm reading. Okay, on the supplementary, maybe I'm reading.
Yes,
wrong.
sorry, I'm in the original, in the supplementary.
Oh, okay. Okay, 104 says it is important to elaborate and make the Commission to comprehend that Rivers Peace was not dismissed. He took early retirement in order to go and work in the city of Tshwane. He therefore did not leave the city as a result of a new staff establishment, but rather because he found a job at the city of Tshwane. While he was serving a notice, it was discovered that the city in the city of Ekurhuleni, he was suspended for fraud-related matters of the extension of the service provider contract, and the evidence is labeled in the file. Chair, I would like to say that I see the discrepancy. In my original statement, when I was talking about the fraud issues, I was relating to how the retirement process was dealt with. And we engaged on that issue yesterday, that what is fraud versus maybe misleading, and I agree that maybe misled. I would like to correct 104 to read the same way as the old statement, if possible. So I'm acceding through you, Chair, that we can correct that.
Withdraw the fraud allegation.
I'm withdrawing the fraud. I don't think it's a fair word to anybody. There was a misleading in terms of the pension fund issues. We could have dealt with that very well, better than he could have done. But on this matter, it was indeed about the extension of the contract. It's either 3 months, and who went and extended beyond 3 months and the 6 months. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just clarify? I mean, you say that you want to frame it as you did in the first statement. Unfortunately, the same allegation of fraud is in the first statement, so I think you should withdraw it there too. If you go to page 22 of the first statement, paragraph 64.3, can you just confirm that you're withdrawing that allegation of fraud?
I've already done that, Chair. That misleading might be different from fraud. It might be a definition issue. But on the issue...
If you go to 64.3, fraud is mentioned twice. 64.3 at the foot of page 22.
I'm responding to that, Chair, that it was an issue of an extension of a contract between 3 months and 6 months.
Mrs. Gxasheka, it's
Yes,
a simple point. Are you withdrawing the reference to fraud even in respect of the original statement? Yes or no?
I did withdraw it, Chair.
No, we're talking about the original statement now.
I'm withdrawing it, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Can we resume after lunch at this point?
Let us adjourn and resume at 2:10.